Everything you've been told about podcast growth is wrong. If podcast growth worked the way all the gurus and experts out there explain it, most podcasters wouldn't be stuck, but they are. That's the harsh reality. And that tells us something important about the podcasts that succeed versus the ones that are stuck. For years, the most common advice that we would get as podcasters was simple. And as content creators, just be consistent. You probably hear it in all the presentations. A lot of people on social media are saying, just be consistent, be consistent. And although I'm all about consistency 1000% matters. I'm not going to negate that, okay? I completely agree. Consistency is all about putting in the reps, putting in the work, practicing, shipping the goods. However, consistency alone won't get you to the next level. And what I mean by that is consistency is only half the battle, my friend. If it was just all about consistency alone, then we wouldn't be having burnout as much as we do, right? We would have more successful podcasters out there, creators doing the thing and really building with confidence. Speaking of confidence, that's usually what goes out the window is the confidence. And that's the reason why a lot of podcasters decide to quit. And, here's my thought on this, because I'm going to speak from personal experience. When I first started podcasting, I chased a lot of what creators were chasing, even till today, chasing the downloads, the vanity metrics, the social media following, the external validation. And I used to watch these numbers closely. I used to obsess over them, hoping that, one day it would validate the work that I was doing and it would tell me that I'm doing a good job and I need to continue moving forward with podcasting. And let me tell you, this is the unspoken truth that a lot of podcasters and creators don't talk about, is that external validation, seeking that permission from others to say, hey, this work is worthy, it drains your energy, right? Especially when it's not connected to clarity. You can do everything in the right order. You can publish consistently. You can make all the improvements. You can show up every week. You're posting the content and you still feel like you're stuck and nothing is working. And, when you, spend months doing everything you've been told and the results are not giving you, are not really giving you the results that you're looking for, burnout becomes inevitable. And that's when I say, it's not about consistency. And I don't think that's the thing that breaks first. The thing that breaks first is your confidence. All right. You start questioning your voice. You start doubting yourself. You start judging your own ideas, your ability to do the thing, and it's not because you're bad at podcasting, but because you didn't have a clear foundation, a strong enough reason, your why, as Simon Sinek likes to say, to be able to push forward and have that clarity you need to remind yourself why you're doing the thing. And that's why I feel like a lot of the podcast advice out there, they talk about output. They talk about, just focus on the output, get it out there, be consistent. But very little talks about the importance of alignment. And that is why you're here. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping podcasters not only stay consistent, but be aligned with the vision, with their bigger vision. Because, podcasting didn't start making sense to me until I stopped asking, how do I grow faster? How do I grow these numbers? I started asking myself, okay, what actually needs to improve? Let me go ahead and do a podcast brand audit. That term wasn't even used back then, but let me look at this, do a full diagnostic, hire a coach, hire somebody who's been doing it on a successful level. And let's talk about the brand messaging. Is the brand dialed in? Is the positioning of the show dialed in comparison to everything out there that's related to the content I'm producing, right? That you're producing. And what about the content quality? Like, is the content quality there? Is the packaging there? All those things, when I started asking myself and I started looking inward and saying, okay, let me take a really hard look at my podcast content instead of outward, instead of seeking external validation, instead of seeking the numbers and all of that. I really knew that things had to change. And one of the things that I realized is that when my podcast was aligned with my bigger picture of myself, of what I wanted to accomplish as a thought leader or as a subject-based expert or an author or a coach, when I started tying that in with my brand and business, my confidence came back. My messaging became clear. My marketing felt a lot lighter. It was a lot more effective. I was able to really articulate and communicate the value of what I was sharing on my podcast. And growth really didn't feel random anymore. It felt like it was a bit under my control, and it felt a bit more calculated. I was able to still, track my metrics and look at the growth numbers, but at least I was able to say, hey, I have the foundational structure dialed in to where now if it's something that's not, if it's not working from here on out, it's probably my marketing, because my brand is tight. It's probably my marketing. What do I need to do to market this and position it differently? But asking yourself, get again the messaging, getting the positioning down, the packaging, the quality, getting all that dialed in is super important. And I feel like when I work for a podcast network, and so I'm day in and day out, I'm working with successful podcasters, top 1% podcasters, and I work with podcasters that are growing their podcast platform. And even in my own coaching business, I've worked with podcasters. And one of the things that really stands out from the top podcasters are the ones that are really succeeding at a higher level. They treat their platform like a business, period. It's not just a publishing channel where they're just saying, I'm publishing podcast content, go listen to me. It's not the way they look at podcasting. They focus on the metrics that actually matter. Retention, is there engagement? That's maybe another video, but they really focus on what matters, not the vanity metrics or not what other people are saying. They build an email list, right? That's number 2. And then they create systems that compound over time. They create systems and processes that keep their podcast sustainable and focused, period. And those are probably the top 3 things that I started noticing from the ones that are really succeeding at a higher level. And, they work, they work from a framework standpoint, not a tactical standpoint, and I believe that you don't need more tactics to grow your show. I think you need systems and processes and clarity to actually grow a show, period. One simple way to think about it, I talk about this, is it's a framework that I use is content. It's the 4 C's. It's content, conversion, connection, and capital. All right. And if that content is the content that you produce, right? The conversion is the email list. If there's a lead magnet, are you converting them into your digital ecosystem? And then the connection, are you building the connection through an email system, a newsletter, something where you're connecting with them outside of the show? And then capital, you start generating capital, start building money based off the content, conversion, and connection. That's how it's done. So that right there, my friend, is the infrastructure. That's not the output. Again, that's not tactics. I'm not giving you need to do this and you need to do that to grow the show. If experts are telling you that, half of the time is just they're just giving you advice that they hear from everywhere else, including ChatGPT and all these other platforms that they're getting it from. That's not really the way to grow the show. The successful podcasters, also one of the things that I've noticed is that they stop watching what others are doing. You could be inspired by other ideas, what other shows are doing from a branding standpoint and how they're connected. You can be inspired by ideas, but they don't copy and paste. They know their brand so well that they don't need to go out elsewhere to try to copy and paste a tactic that may not work for them and most likely won't work for them. So they don't copy. They just do their thing. And they just get in this mindset of experimenting. Like, I love the idea of podcasters saying, what could I experiment with this week? What can I do something to optimize my show? That's how you get better. And that's how you get growth. You improve, one iteration at a time, 1% at a time. You get better and better. Okay. So I was really compelled to share this because I was a conversation with a client, and they were like, well, what are we doing? We're doing, because we did a podcast brand audit. And the question was like, I need the goods, Ozeal. Give me tactics, give me things to do. And I was like, nah, we don't need to do more things. We need to do less things of all the things. And that's in consuming information and focusing on the right things that are going to improve the show, which will result in growth, period. So as podcasting, grows, it's going to get noisy out there. It is. It's going to get really, really noisy out there. And attention is becoming more limited than ever. And the creators who win won't be the loudest. They'll be the ones that are clear on what they deliver, their audience they serve, and why they're doing the thing. That's how winning is done in podcasting. So again, super important. If your podcast isn't growing, it's not where it needs to be. You're hoping that it would be, over, 1,000 downloads after 6 months. Don't ask yourself how to grow faster. Okay. Ask yourself what is actually working and what's not. And I believe that clarity leads, again, to growth. It really does. And it's not the other way. It's not tactics. So if you need help with this, I will post a link in my description. I would be more than happy to jump on a free 15-minute clarity call with you. We can talk about some of your goals and visions, your objectives, some of the things that you want to work on. And if we find that it's a fit for us to work together, I do have programs that will help you get unstuck. We'll get you on the right track to growth. We want to make podcasting worth your time and money. I know podcasting, especially with video podcasting now, there's an investment. There's time, energy, and a financial investment. Let's make the most use of it. It's not, the best use is not in spending more time doing more things and researching more things. It's about being very strategic and being very intentional about what you consistently publish online. That's it. More coming soon. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel for more tips and strategies and more mindset and more things like this that I'll be sharing with you that you probably won't get anywhere else. You'll get all the tactics and 5 ways to do. We'll have a little bit of that, but I'm going to do it my way, and we're going to do it our way. And I'm just want to welcome you on that journey. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's my big ask. Okay, so hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button so you get notified once a new video drops. And I promise, one of the things that I want to do, here's my promise to you, is I want to make sure that I improve on my video quality content. I'm a podcaster, audio only, and I'm learning how to restart and really make sure that I improve my video presentation, the way I communicate, my game as a content creator myself here on YouTube. So yes, do me a huge favor. And also, give me some feedback. You can always email me, ozealmedia11@gmail.com. Or you can comment down below. Please try to be kind, be gentle, because, your boy is trying his best here. But feel free to just, share your feedback with me. I would love to hear if there's any topics you want to talk about. You can email me that as well. All right, I'm out. Peace.